what's important about the insula, the most important thing is that, and it's a word that sounds hard, but it should be your favorite word. It's interoception. Okay? Interoception is sort of the signal of how everybody's doing inside there, in there, you know? So it plays a role in, it integrates all the signals from all the different parts of your body. Sort of, are you feeling too hot? Are you feeling too cold? Are you feeling angry? Are you stressed? All that signal, all those signals integrate in the insula to say how you feel about the universe, and you kind of, from there, infer your feelings about a situation. Now, the reason that that one is so important is that a lot of your addictive conditions are related to interoceptive unawareness. They sometimes call it Alexithymia, which kind of, it means no words for emotions, no words for feelings. So to dive down a little bit of a rabbit hole with this, because it's worth thinking about, when you start to have a negative feeling, a lot of times people kind of jump to conclusions and go right to get the heck away from there. But if you're doing this prematurely, you would never develop the differentiation of your negative feelings. You treat all your negative feelings as one glob, and that's really destructive. And what you find is that people aren't able to develop coping mechanisms and to think through their problems because they either have an explosive fit of anger, a meltdown, a dissociative response. A lot of people with your dissociative identity disorder have had situations where they've pulled away from their emotions and tend to pull away still. So yes, so interoception plays a key role in being aware of sort of how your body's feeling about a situation. You know, get a gut feeling, your heart is racing, whatever else like that. Now, another thing is self-awareness and agency. When you dig into it, what you find is that the reason you know that it's you is because your body gives you like a constant stream of feedback. There have been a bunch of studies where if they have you kind of lose awareness of, they use a rubber hand experiment where they tap the rubber hand at the same time as they tap your hand under a table. They put your hand under the table. And after a while, your body maps that rubber hand to your brain. Doesn't take long. And then they stop tapping the hand under the table, your real hand, and they tap the rubber hand, and you feel it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's called the rubber hand illusion, if people feel like.
That's very technical.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what it does. But what else? You also have homeostasis, which is management of your bodily states, because your insula manages your sympathetic versus your parasympathetic system responses. The reason that's important is because people might remember sympathetic is fight or flight. On the other end, parasympathetic is sort of rest. And one of the things we talked about a while back is Polyvagal Theory, where when you're in fight or flight, all your brain functioning, all the conversation, warm fuzzies, collaboration, all that shuts down. You know, your frontal cortex, all that, your prefrontal cortex, all that is shut down. So you're operating on amygdala, lizard brain. Okay, that's why that part of the homeostasis is important. What else? Self-awareness, sympathetic, parasympathetic. Your social emotions, like disgust. When you see something disgusting that someone does, and this is not the usual don't want to eat it disgust. This is moral disgust. Okay, and the reason that's important is because a lot of what you find, a lot of your prejudice, your classism, a lot of your hate responses are over insular responses. Okay, mindfulness helps all those, but that's something we'll dig into a lot later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on
in there. Yeah. But it's all important. It's woven together.
And I would say, out of everything we've talked about so far, it seems clear to me, much more going on in this part of the brain than any part we've talked about so far.
Yeah.
Even though some of those previous pieces had multiple things going on.
Yeah.
There's sort of a lot to manage there.
Yeah, it's your site of integration, man. It's what makes you feel human. You sizzle that, it's just not the same anymore. Yeah, it's also where a lot of your psychiatric conditions happen there.
Why do you think that is?
Um, because everything about life is about the highs and the lows. You know, you have to survive in a social environment, so you have to know when you're under threat. You have to know when you're overwhelmed. You have to know your feelings are designed to be a mechanism of guidance. Now, as I said before, when people have insular salience issues, interoceptive problems, the alexithymia, when people have that, that's the no words for emotions. They end up with somatization disorders, which are disorders where your body's still firing off that you're stressed. You just don't have words for it, so you're going to transfer it to another part. And people get a lot of lower back pain. People get gastric issues because if your body's firing off those chemicals of fight, flight, even though your brain is not consciously aware of those emotions, your stomach lining is still going funny, so you might have the gut issues, the constipation, diarrhea, the headaches, the neck tension, the lower back pain. In addition to that, when you're not aware with the when your insula is not when you have poor interoceptive awareness, you end up with addictive conditions. Addiction because with your insula, you know when you hit your stress point when you're aware, and you could bring yourself back down and relax. If you're not aware, then you just until the somatic aspects kick in, and then you end up with addictive disorders, cocaine, self-medication with alcohol, just shutting down much bigger, much louder responses that if you were more aware of your insula saying, I'm getting stressed, you could have caught a lot earlier. Yeah. And there's one last one I just thought of.
Yeah.
In general anxiety disorders, well, let me give it a point of reference. Most, and I don't want to say the word normal, but in an adaptive person who has good interoceptive awareness, their emotions help them to kind of focus in on the problem. They bring them in. You know, it's like attend to this. When you have a little bit of an anxiety response, you say to yourself, I'm not comfortable, let me solve that problem. Someone with something like a generalized anxiety disorder who tends to catastrophize, to blow everything out of proportion, to jump to conclusions, when they get those feelings, it doesn't provide useful information like it does with someone who has meditated themselves to a healthy state. They basically they freak out. They instantly go into avoid mode, jump to conclusions, and they decompensate. They over respond. They might go use some drugs to shut down that part of their system where that's information you need to survive.
Okay.
Yeah. At its best, you're supposed to, like I can't remember what movie it was, but he's like, right now you're at a 10. I need you at about a 2. There's a range in there, and a lot of times right beyond that initial level 2 is love, is missing someone, is realizing that you've hurt someone's feelings so that you can walk back and apologize. But if you just sum it all up in over-responding, you end up with intermittent explosive disorders, rage issues. You escalate things in your relationship, so you're arguing about something entirely unrelated, and you blow things out of proportion. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very important part.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. And so today we're just talking about the part, and then as I've alluded to in the earlier videos, in the next sort of section, we're doing 5 videos on parts, and then we'll get into 5 more videos on the electrochemical side of things, and so we'll tie back into sort of what happens in these different parts electrochemically, and then when we get to the final 5, we'll sort of try to wrap it all together and talk about all these different processes. So we'll definitely come back, right, and talk about, I mean, you're already doing it, really, I can see, but we'll go a little deeper into, like, how these parts and these processes really matter for everyday living. So I'm excited to do that. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, and one key point, and I'll try to underscore this every episode, it's a lot of times people are like, it's neuroscience, I'm not going to worry about that. You wouldn't say, well, I'm not going to bother learning how to walk. I'm not going to bother learning what it feels like for my stomach to be full. I'm not going to bother learning what it feels like if someone amputates a toe. There are a bunch of parts in your brain that when you become aware of them there and aware of the different functions, the way it feels when some operate, the way they interact with your body, you immediately become more able to control and cope with situations.
Yeah.